Welcome to the baby boomer generation. Today we'll be talking a little bit about how the baby boomer generation works. According to Gordon Food Service, the baby boomers actually make up 26% of the population, and they also have the lowest spending power. They buy, on average, according to Gordon Food Service, 193 restaurant meals per year. And they also are most likely to use dine-in services. They are also they are more attuned to or likely to buy foods that are labeled either premium and homemade due to the generation just growing up with more foods that were made from home and from scratch, and it really does encourage their purchasing. Now that they're getting older and becoming more mindful of food that nourishes them, they're seeking out more restaurants that provide healthier choices. So foods that are higher in nourishment is something that they gravitate towards. They also like items that are high in whole grains, protein, calcium, are low in fat and cholesterol and sodium, and they won't sacrifice their flavor for better nutrition. So they also like their freshness of their food. This generation places the most value on freshness compared to any other generation, and they are also desiring smaller portions of food just because of, again, the way that they grew up in the time that they were a part of. Portion sizes have grown these days to being so much larger than what they're used to. Classic foods appeal to them, such as your meat and potato foods, and this is also dependent upon where the baby boomers live. So more Midwestern baby boomers will gravitate towards those meat and potatoes. Baby boomers also spend more time eating at home than do millennials, and baby boomers actually spend an average of 69 minutes per day eating. They spend 27 minutes per day snacking. 136 minutes are devoted to food preparation, presentation, and cleanup. And baby boomers even work on average of 32 hours per week compared to the 20 hours average worked per week by millennials. I also found that 59% of baby boomers purchase food from a deli, carry-out, delivery food, or fast food, and they eat about 7.4% of all meals at work. Baby boomers spend the most money on grains, snacks, white meat, eggs, fish, and non-carbonated beverages. I have been experienced or had experience with this generation myself. This generation is the generation of my parents. And so when I had gotten information on this generation, I had spent some time speaking with my mom on to what she had thought of, different aspects of her generation. So the current age of baby boomers are 56 to 74 years old right now. My mom told me that many did not work, especially mothers. They were still in the era of the stay-at-home mom. My mom couldn't wait until it was payday for would be my grandfather, her dad, since he was the one that worked. He worked at a paper mill, and that was due to the fact that they were only able to afford certain things. So when it was payday, they were most likely to get an extra item or snack or, something that they were looking forward to throughout the week. My mom told me that there were things like cake that she had mentioned to me, and so once the cake was gone, it was gone. My grandmother would not make another cake, so you just weren't getting any more of it. Whereas the difference with my generation or my growing up was if the cake was gone or the cookies were gone, my mom would make more. Gas stations during this era era provided only candy bars, chips, and soda, and nothing really else. Nowadays, convenience stores, you'll find different hot foods, different snacks, little items such as like ibuprofen and anything that you would need for traveling. There also was, my mom spoke of once per week, a wooden crate of soda that they would get from an actual soda factory. She called it a pop factory, of different flavors that were purchased, and they were allowed to share only one bottle in the evening. My mom grew up with her sister, and so they were only able to share one with each other. They had snacks and treats, but they were very limited due to only that one only income. Other items that they had during the time were the Schwann's man that would come around and collect their order, and then he would give them their food because he drove a frozen truck. And the milkman would still come around with glass bottles of milk. Some unhealthy habits that she spoke of that she thought that they had during this era. There wasn't a whole lot other than they did have snacks, but they were limited and had more prepackaged food that was becoming popular. They had TV dinners as a treat. Some of the unhealthy habits that she had thought of were, or more healthy habits, I should say, were that my grandma had a garden due to the part of the Depression, and they also had 3 meals a day. They had more canned food than frozen food due to not having a deep freeze, and their meals consisted of a meat, potato, and vegetable almost always. Some food trends during this era were malto meal, farina, sweet dough, which was leftover dough. They were also called shanty buns during this time, and in the location, which was Wisconsin, where she grew up, due to the logging camps of the North. They also had hash, which was actually Spanish rice for them. They had spaghetti, but it was more of a sweet spaghetti that was added with cinnamon and some other items. You can see off to the right here on this slide, part of my grandma's recipe of what it all consisted of. So she had cloves, cinnamon, ginger, sugar added to that spaghetti. They also had dumplings that were made with baking powder, potato patties that were leftover mashed potatoes mixed with egg, onion, corn, and then they were fried. My mom said she hated this meal. She never had Mexican food until adulthood. They never made Chinese or any other types of foods like chop suey or anything like that. She never had it until adulthood due to just where they lived. Sheet cakes were popular due to the logging camp days. Jello was popular and a big deal. Pudding was made from scratch. Angel food cake was always made from scratch. Popsicles were actually made from scratch. They froze their own popsicles. Kool-Aid became popular, and also ring bologna. My mom grew up with 3 meals a day. Breakfast was always eaten as a family, made by my grandma. Lunch was almost always often at school, or if she wanted, she was close enough from the school to walk home and eat lunch if she wanted. After school, she always had a snack. Dinner was together and eaten as a family. Weekend lunch was usually on your own. Sunday dinners consisted of the biggest meal of the week, and they almost always could expect company during that time. If you went out what they called visiting, you were always expected to put out food for your guests. If someone was expected to come over and a cake was made for the week, you had to wait to eat it, so to make sure that you had enough for whoever was coming over. And during this era, fast food was just getting started, and they really didn't eat out very often at all. Some of the history during this era was, this is kind of what my mom had spoken of. She said that she had just missed the assassination of President Kennedy. Reagan and the tearing down of the Berlin Wall was something that had happened. She remembers someone trying to assassinate President Reagan. Vietnam was ending. Steel mills were big. She remembers some movies that were starting to come out were The Godfather and Jaws. disco was popular. Boy bands were just becoming popular and getting started. There were still a lot of coal mines around. It was the era of the Cuban Missile Crisis and the Cold War. The Soviet-Afghan War had happened during this time. My mom said that they were the first generation that was really raised on TV. And due to history, my grandparents, my mother's mom and dad, had a garden just in case there was a shortage of food. And my grandmother did her own canning. They didn't buy any snacks, really. My mom said that they had popped their own popcorn, basically from scratch, not this microwave bag popcorn that we have these days. And she also told me that it was a really big deal to pick out a box of cereal, but it had to be shared. She said that there wasn't as many flavors as there are now, and that they had to make that one box of cereal last the whole week for her and her sister. Fruit was a big deal to buy just because it was more expensive food. They ate a lot of oatmeal because it was cheap. Oftentimes they went berry picking in the woods, and my grandmother made her own jam for them. And she also remembers beet juice being saved to make their own jelly. This is just a little clip of what an ad from McDonald's looked like from back in this era. Now let's discuss a little bit of education techniques. When I spoke with my mom, she had felt that the era this generation learned best with the hands-on techniques, kind of like watch it happen and then try to replicate it and do it themselves. My mom remembers going through film strips at school. She felt that the industry was changing at this time to accommodate the generation, and is changing now to accommodate the generation getting older. Baby boomers are more likely to work longer and start a second career, volunteer, take classes. With the industry changing, homes are changing, and I feel like just looking at how homes are changing shows how the industry is changing with what we want and how the generation itself overall is changing. There are 7 concepts when looking at homes for this generation. Baby boomers want to stay in one place rather than move to Florida and retire there. It's also noted as aging in place. They want to stay in their own homes and not go to a nursing home. So the homes are being designed to accommodate for this. They're starting to plan for needing a wheelchair. They're embracing what is called a universal design, which this universal design was developed by a wheelchair-bound architect. The concept has actually been around since the 70s, but the design is actually based on several concepts. These concepts are equitable use, so it's a design that's used for all features in the same way. It's a flexible design that can be adjusted depending on the user, so it's also noted as being ambidextrous. It's simple and innovative. Anyone can understand how to use it. Perceptive information is easy to determine info associated with the feature. Tolerance for error. This design minimizes danger and potential consequences of misuse. Low physical effort. You won't break a sweat trying to do certain things in your home. Size and space for approach and use. You have room to get around and ability to reach things. So some of these things would be lower door handles, at least one bathroom on the ground floor is what the baby boomer generation is looking for now in their homes. One bedroom on the ground floor, possibly, or most likely the master bedroom. Can still have guest bedrooms or offices upstairs. Stairs may be stained in slightly different colors to aid someone with poor vision. Install stacked cabinets, which can be converted into converted to install an elevator when you need to get from floor to floor, wide hallways to accommodate a wheelchair turning, hardwood floors that don't restrict or that doesn't have carpet that would restrict movement. Light is abundant throughout the home. Light switches, outlets, and thermostats are no higher than 48 inches off the floor, so you can still reach them. The kitchen, most likely where they're looking for a microwave on the counter and countertops and cabinets a little bit lower. Bathroom, you're looking for a toilet that sits higher, countertops at different levels for different users, a walk-in shower instead of a bathtub. They also are going to want a wheel-in shower, so those who are wheelchair bound can actually get in and still take a shower. They will also look for the wall of the shower being reinforced so that a grabber or grab bar can be installed. Many companies are now making more stylish grabbers and designer shower chairs to appeal to this generation. And sometimes there's really no difference at all in a lot of these homes. It may actually only add 5% of cost to the design of these homes, since a lot of homes are just being built this way in general. It is more cost efficient to put it all of this in at the beginning rather than trying to go back and change a home. So their incorporating features may increase the value of home. It was noted by 2030 that 70 million, or 20% of the US population, will be over the age of 65. And baby boomers are looking for homes that are falling within the regulations of the National Association of Home Builders. So if you're looking to build a home that you would like to sell later on, this would be a good tool to start to look for. The National Association of Home Builders also has people who work for them who are called certified aging in place specialists, and they deal with these accommodations being put into the home. Due to it being estimated that there will not be enough elder care workers to take care of the baby boomer generation, there will also be more need for technology that is in high tech, such as toilet seats that will weigh you. So that is something they're looking at making more widely available. I do believe they are around now already. Many baby boomers are also onto their second lifetime career, and many do not have enough savings put away to retain the standard of living upon retirement right now. So that may be some issues that a lot of them are running into. Baby boomers also have been noted to be healthier and more educated than their parents at this age. And baby boomers really aren't really interested in relaxing, though. They like to keep contributing to society. So that's why when I mention them still like being on their second job and stuff at this time in their lives, they still want to volunteer and be a part of the community. So with that being said, we're going to talk a little bit about my personal experience. So my personal experience with this generation, again, is my parents both grew up in this era. I grew up with both of my parents, who are a part of the baby boomer generation. They can often be known by millennials as being old school or strict. My dad had his own bulldozing business that he ran on his own. He also worked at a paper mill full time, and he still has the bulldozing business, and often in the wintertime he has a snow plowing business. My mom grew up with her own cosmetology business. Both of my parents earned an associate's degree. My dad's associate's degree from a tech school was in welding, and then my mom's obviously was in cosmetology. I would say that they're both set in their ways. They're stubborn, but they also work very hard. I feel like this is a very common theme to this generation. When I spoke with my mom on her thoughts of nutrition, she said it really depended on who you talked to from this generation. She stated that eating disorders were really on the rise at this time. My mom remembers there being a lot of talk about anorexia and bulimia. She felt that a lot of things were one big contributor were magazines, since they were bigger than TV at this time and there wasn't a whole lot of TV watching going on yet. Women's goal during this era was to be tan, skinny, and have long hair. No one knew or understood of the implications of the UVA and UVB rays, so that's why there was a lot of tanning. More nutrition information was also starting to come up this time. My mom thought it was around the late 70s due to the being skinny fad. Richard Simmons was a huge hit during this time. The My Food Pyramid was their nutrition guide. The experience hasn't been an interesting one, though, my mom said, just due to how things have changed so much. As I have gotten older, I have learned more to appreciate and accept their views and ways on these different ideas, just because they do have a lot of knowledge and experience, but they also they struggle to learn more and understand this generation just due to technology. My parents were very hardworking, and then if you look at the generation before them, my grandma didn't work and my grandpa worked at the paper mill doing shift work. So, as far as the Saturday afternoon fun that could be described, basketball and softball were the two biggest sports that my mom spoke of. At the time, they were really the only two sports that were available for girls. There was a lot of belief that girls weren't supposed to be in sports, that it would, I guess, maybe, I don't know if hurt them is the right word, but it wouldn't be beneficial to them. They just weren't expected to participate. But it was also really unheard of to participate in anything else other than basketball and softball, especially where my mom grew up in a really small town. She said that volleyball was kind of beginning to get accepted for girls to play, just because it was more of a non-contact sport, I guess you could say. But anyway, my mom said that most of the time during the summer, especially, they lived on their bikes. She said that they biked everywhere, back and forth to friends' houses and around town, and part of that was due to just the town being so small. Running was unheard of during this time, and it was only for boys. You would hardly ever see anyone out running or doing any form of exercise, that my mom had said. A lot of time too, with me understanding the history of running, this was back in the era where races and 5Ks and marathons were not as popular. Women actually weren't accepted in the marathon back during this time era, until there was one woman who actually jumped into the Boston Marathon and ran it. They tried to pull her off the course, but it didn't work out so well. So that was during the time when that kind of stuff was actually beginning to become popular or be more accepted. My mom said that kickball was played in yards and was a big thing to do on a weekend or on a Saturday. My mom grew up in a strict Lutheran household where they went to church every Sunday. It was expected of you to, if you were of a certain age, to go to Sunday school until you were confirmed. And then I do believe they still kept going to church every Sunday after that. My dad grew up in a Catholic home, and I don't believe that it was as strict as my mom's bringing up. My mom said that soda and diet soda was promoted at this time and was starting to become a big trend. Water was not pushed for you to drink it to be healthy. My mom said that if you were thirsty, you just drank water out of the tap. My mom remembers going to my aunt's house. She said the water from their tap was terrible, so she always tried to make sure that she would drink water at home before and after she was at their house. And this was also the era that there were really no flavored waters. Water was water, and you wouldn't see anyone running around with a water bottle. So it's not like she went over to my aunt's house with a water bottle in her hand to drink from, because it's not something you did. It's not something that they had. And like today, there also was no water filters. So like she said, if it tasted bad, you drank it because that was all you had. So that's a little bit of my experience with this generation. They are still around today and are trying to become healthier and get accustomed to a lot of the changes that are happening. But I think it's also very hard for them just because of the way that they grew up and having their own parents be a part of the Depression and the times when things that they knew of were very hard to get a hold of or have, especially food. They're still kind of set into that mindset and those ways of things. Now we're going to learn a little bit on how to navigate MyPlate. You will actually be going to choosemyplate.gov and then looking into the 56 to 74-year-old category. You'll then go to the Eat Healthy tab, Categories tab, and then you can navigate down to the 51 plus age categories in each group. And then you'll be able to see like the fruits, vegetables, grains, protein, and dairy and oils tables. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. That is how you get to navigating MyPlate. Going to the internet, going to choosemyplate.gov. So for those that are in the age group of 56 to 74 years old, it is recommended that men get 2 cups of fruit, women get 1.5 cups. Vegetables, men recommendation is 2.5 cups, women is 2 cups. Grains for men, recommendations are 6 ounces, women is 5 ounces. Protein is 6 ounces for men and 5 ounces for women. Dairy group, 3 cups for men, 3 cups for women. And the oils, which is not actually a food group, is 6 teaspoons, and women is 5 teaspoons. And we're going to talk a little bit about each group as we go through it. So some tips on MyPlate, just focusing when it comes to fruits and vegetables, focusing on getting half your plate of fruits and vegetables. You want to also vary your vegetables. So eating from the rainbow, we want to make sure that we get all different colors in our diet. This allows for different nutrients for us to get different nutrients. So different colors have different nutrients. We want to make sure that half our grains are whole grains. We'll kind of go over that here in a few minutes. You want to make sure that you are consuming more low-fat and fat-free milk and yogurt from your dairy group. Varying your protein routine, so just getting in different types of protein. And we'll talk about each group as we go through this and what foods are included. And then also drinking and eating less sodium, saturated fat, and anything that's an added sugar. Some other ways or some other simple tips are to, eat seasonally. So checking to see what fruits and vegetables are in season in your area can help you save money. If you're craving something sweet, you can try eating more dried fruits like cranberries, mango, apricots, cherries, or raisins. To meet your fruit goal, you can keep fresh fruit rinsed and where you can see it, so you can grab that more as a snack. You want to make sure to vary your veggies by adding a new vegetable to each different meal of the day. And again, like adding color to salads such as baby carrots, shredded red cabbage, or green beans. Popcorn is actually a whole grain, so when it comes to whole grain, just, it's easy and simple to pop a bag of low-fat or fat-free popcorn for a healthier snack. Protein foods, just making dinner once and serve it twice, having leftovers. For carb strips, you could also pack a mixture of unsalted nuts, seeds, and dried fruit for a crunchy protein snack. For making sure you get your dairy in, you could also make a smoothie by blending fat-free yogurt or fat-free milk with fresh or frozen fruits. And tips for just, reducing salt and sodium. Many processed foods contain high amounts of sodium, so making sure you choose what's fresh, such as fresh vegetables, meat, poultry, and seafood when possible. Shopping the outsides of the grocery store rather than the middle aisles. And tips for just kind of getting rid of those added sugars. Just splitting the sweet treats and share with a family member, or just cut calories by drinking water instead of sweetened beverages such as soda, energy drinks, and sports drinks. Let's discuss the fruit group a little bit. So the fruit group is a group, the fruit group contains, many different fruits. So like we see here, we have strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, which are more of our berries that can include kiwi, mango, bananas, oranges, and it basically includes any fruit or 100% fruit juice counts as part of the fruit group. Fruits may be fresh, canned, frozen, or dried, and they may be cut up, whole, cut up, or pureed. When it comes to, how much you need daily, it really depends. It depends on your age, your gender, level of physical activity, and those who are physically active actually might need more than the recommendations. What counts as a whole cup of fruit? 1 cup of fruit or 100% fruit juice or half cup dried fruit can be considered as 1 cup from the fruit group. So taking a look at this table, if you have an apple, whatever counts as 1 cup of fruit would be an apple that is either 1 small apple or 1 cup sliced or chopped or raw or cooked apple. Or it could be a half a cup sliced or chopped raw or cooked as well. A banana could be 1 cup sliced banana or 1 large banana. Or 1 small, less than 6 inches long, could also count. Grapes could be 1 cup whole or cut up, or 32 seedless grapes, however you want to count that. A half a cup of fruit would be about 16 seedless grapes. An orange would be 1 large orange or 1 cup sections of orange. Half a cup would be 1 small orange. And as you can, if you have any questions, you can always refer back to the MyPlate actual webpage for more information. So if we were to talk about vegetables a little bit, things that fall into the vegetable group are things such as tomatoes, carrots, asparagus, squash, lettuce, celery, eggplant, peppers. There's just so many different types and varieties. Any vegetable that is 100% vegetable juice, or any vegetable, as a matter of fact, counts as a member of the vegetable group. It may be raw or cooked, fresh or frozen, canned, dried, or dehydrated, and also may be whole, cut up, or mashed. And then Vegetables are actually organized into 5 different subgroups. Those 5 subgroups are dark green vegetables, so like your spinach and your kale. Starchy vegetables, like your potatoes, potatoes, corn, and peas are more starchy. Your red-orange vegetables, such as red peppers, orange peppers, squash, beans, and peas. And then just a whole other category of just other vegetables that don't fall into any of the 4 categories listed above. How much is needed daily? Again, for vegetables, it depends on age, gender, physical activity level, and it generally varies. There are different recommendations for different age groups. So 1 to 3 cups per day on average is what you would be looking at. Vegetable subgroups are amounts to eat weekly. So when we're looking at the different subgroups here in just a minute, it's based on how much you should have weekly. And it's not necessary to have to eat vegetables from each subgroup. So if I were to have a dark green vegetable on Monday, I wouldn't necessarily have to make sure that I ate starchy red, orange beans, and peas on Monday as well. It can be spread out throughout the week. And then, of course, over the course of a week, just try to consume the listed amounts of subgroup like I just stated. So what counts as a whole cup of vegetables? 1 cup raw or cooked vegetables or vegetable juice. 2 cups raw or leafy vegetables can be considered as 1 cup from the vegetable group. And then again, just refer to that vegetable table if you have any questions. So I have some examples here that I cut and pasted from the My Plate itself. So like if you have broccoli, something that would equal 1 cup would be 1 cup of chopped or florets, or 3 spears that are about 5 inches long, raw or cooked. Carrots is about 1 cup of vegetable is about 1 cup strips, slices, or chopped. They can be raw or cooked, or 2 medium carrots, or 1 cup of baby carrots, or about 12. Something that would count as a half a cup of vegetables would be 1 medium carrot, or a half cup of baby carrots, which would be about 6. Green peas, which is our starchy vegetables, 1 cup is about 1 cup. Cucumbers, which kind of falls in that other subcategory, 1 cup raw, sliced, or chopped would be about 1 cup of vegetable for that. Now we're going to talk about the grain group a little bit. Grains are any food that is made with wheat, rice, oats, cornmeal, barley, or any other cereal grain. So some foods that fall in the grain group would be bread, pasta, breakfast cereal, grits, or tortillas. Some other things that are also included in this group is also popcorn, rice, and oatmeal. The grain group is also divided into subgroups. So the 2 subgroups for the grain group are whole grains and refined grains. And we're going to talk about what those 2 are here. So whole grains, and I'm going to show you this, is whole grains contain the entire grain kernel. It contains the bran, the germ, and the endosperm. So from looking at this, it's basically, it contains the outside of the grain, and then it also contains the inside of the grain. Examples of whole grains are whole wheat flour, bulgur or cracked wheat, oatmeal, whole cornmeal, or brown rice. Refined grains are milled, and it removes the bran and the germ, so it removes 2 portions of the 3 portions of the grain. It gives the grains a finer texture to improve shelf life. However, it removes most of the dietary fiber, iron, and B vitamins. So examples of this are white flour, degermed cornmeal, white bread, and white rice. Most refined grains are what's called enriched. So what's added back in are the B vitamins, such as thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, and folic acid, and iron. So the important thing to note here is that fiber, which is one of the most important things, is not added back into these. So making sure to check the labels for the word enriched. There are some products that are mixed with whole and refined grains. So when it comes down to choosing whole grains or white grains or refined grains, we want to make sure we choose whole grains over our refined grains because you're getting more fiber, the natural vitamins, and iron, and then anything else that comes as a nutrient, just depending on what kind of grain you choose. How much do you need daily? Well, it all depends. At least 1/2 of grains you should choose should come from whole grains. And what counts as a 1 ounce equivalent? Well, generally 1 slice of bread, 1 cup of ready-to-eat cereal, 1/2 a cup of cooked rice, cooked pasta, or cooked cereal is about 1 ounce from the grain group. And again, refer back to the My Plate tables for more information. When we look at breads, so things that count as a 1 ounce equivalent from the grain group is about 1 regular slice of bread, 1 small slice of French bread, or 4 snack-sized slices of rye bread. Common portions in ounce equivalents, 2 regular slices of bread is about a 2 ounce equivalent. Crackers, so 1 ounce of crackers would be about 5 whole wheat crackers, 2 rye crisp breads, or 7 square or round crackers. A 1 ounce equivalent of oatmeal would be about 1/2 cup cooked, 1 instant packet of oatmeal, or 1 ounce dry, regular, or quick oatmeal. And 1 ounce equivalent of rice would be about 1/2 cup cooked, or 1 ounce dry. And a common portion is about 1 cup that's cooked is about 2 ounces. We'll now move on to the protein group. Protein foods are meat, poultry, seafood, beans, peas, eggs, soy products, nuts, and seeds. We want to make sure that when we choose them that they are lean or low-fat meat and poultry. At least 8 ounces of seafood per week has been known to improve health through studies. Vegetarian protein foods consist of beans, peas, processed soy products, nuts, and seeds. Some things that count as a 1 ounce equivalent of protein. So generally 1 ounce of meat or poultry, 1/4 cup cooked beans, 1 egg, 1 tablespoon of peanut butter, or 1/2 ounce nuts and seeds equals 1 ounce of protein. Looking at different proteins from the table, we can see that 1 ounce equivalent of protein foods. So when we look at meats, a 1 ounce equivalent is about 1 ounce of cooked or lean beef, 1 ounce of cooked lean pork or ham. So if we had 1 small steak, that would be 3.5 to about 4 ounces. Or if we had 1 small lean hamburger, that's about 2 to 3 ounces. Poultry, 1 ounce cooked chicken or turkey without the skin is about a 1 ounce equivalent. Or 1 sandwich slice of turkey is about 1 ounce. So if we had 1 small chicken breast half, that would be about 3 ounces, or a half Cornish game hen would be 4 ounces. If we had seafood, 1 ounce of cooked fish or shellfish is 1 ounce, equivalent from the protein group. 1 can of tuna drained contains 3 to 4 ounces. 1 salmon steak contains about 4 to 6 ounces, or if you were to have 1 small trout, that's about 3 ounces. 1 egg is equivalent to about 1 ounce from the protein group. And if you were to have 3 egg whites, that's about 2 ounces, or if you had 3 egg yolks, that's about a 1 ounce equivalent from the protein group. As we look at the dairy group, we see that all fluid milk products and many foods that are made from milk fall into this category. Yogurt, cheese, calcium, and fortified soy milk are all a part of this group. Some things that are not part of the dairy group are cream cheese, cream, or butter, and this is just because they contain little to no calcium and they are often high in fat. What counts as a 1 ounce equivalent is 1 cup of milk, yogurt or soy milk, 1.5 ounces of natural cheese, or 2 ounces of processed cheese is equal to 1 cup of dairy milk. So again, things that count as a cup in the dairy group are 1 cup of milk, 1/2 pint container of milk, or 1/2 cup evaporated milk. When looking at yogurt, 1 regular container, 8 ounces of yogurt is about 1 cup, or 1 cup of yogurt is 1 cup. And then cheese, about 1.5 ounces of hard cheese, such as cheddar, mozzarella, Swiss, or Parmesan, is equal to 1 cup. 1/3 of a cup of shredded cheese, or 2 ounces of processed cheese, such as American, count as 1 cup of the dairy group, or 2 cups of cottage cheese also count as 1 cup of the dairy group. Finally, we're going to talk about oils. So oils are fats that are liquid at room temperature. They are not a food group. Foods, mainly oil, are things such as mayonnaise, certain salad dressings, soft tub or squeeze margarine with no trans fats. Oils from plant sources do not contain cholesterol. Coconut, palm, and palm kernel oil are high in saturated fat, which is a fat that we would stay away from. Common fats are butter, milk fat, beef fat, such as tallow or suet, chicken fat, pork fat, which is also known as lard, stick margarine, shortening, and partially hydrogenated oil. So the recommendations on the oils group are men who are 51 and older should consume only about 6 teaspoons, and women 51 or older should consume about 5 teaspoons. And here's just a simple chart of the amounts of food in each group. Vegetable oils, such as canola, corn, cottonseed, olive, 1 teaspoon is about amount of oil in teaspoon in grams is about 3 teaspoons, which is about 120 calories. So if you look at margarine, 1 tablespoon is about 100 calories. Mayo is about the same. A half of an avocado is about 130 calories. Peanut butter, 2 tablespoons is about 140 calories of oil, and so on. So to find more of these listings, just to refer back again to the MyPlate website. So to get to MyPlate, we go to choosemyplate.gov. So I will show you here. If we go to choosemyplate.gov and then hit enter, it brings you to this website. To navigate through MyPlate, it kind of shows you that you can explore different food groups here right on the screen itself. You can go to the Eat Healthy tab here at the top and go down to, we're going to start with fruits. It will then navigate you to the fruit group. Kind of goes and talks a little bit about the different fruits. As you can see in the page itself, there's tables that are embedded within the different information. So here you see the daily fruit table. If you click on the plus screen or the plus sign to the right, it will actually give you the daily recommendations here. So we're looking at the 51 plus year recommendations for both men and for women. If you scroll down a little bit further, it gives you the cup of fruit table. Again, we can click on the plus sign to the right. It gives you the different foods. So if we scroll down and take a look at a peach, it shows you one serving size of a peach would be about one large peach, or depending on if you have it canned. And then it also shows here to the right about what a half cup serving would be. So that would be about one small peach. If we scroll back up on the left-hand side here, you can actually navigate through each different food group. So you can navigate to vegetables, grains, protein foods, dairy, and oils. Each section is laid out the same. So here we're looking at the grains group. You can do the same. If you scroll on here, you'll see a daily grains table, and it provides the recommendations. And if you scroll down further, it kind of shows you again here what the different foods are in that group and about what their recommendations are.
Today we're going to be talking a little bit about my plate. When we actually look at our plate, we want to make sure that we have half of our plate at least vegetables, the other portion of our plate a protein, and then the final third portion of our plate a grain. We also have room for our dairy group. This represents a cup from our dairy group, or it could be yogurt. And we also have fruits that are added in to make sure that we get all of our food groups. Some things that we could put on this portion of our plate are, our vegetables. So we're going to actually go ahead and make a plate of food today. Today we have vegetables such as our green beans, broccoli, carrots, or a salad. Today I'm going to put some green beans on my plate. When we look at the protein group, adding protein to our plate, we have proteins such as salmon, chicken breast, or steak. Today we're going to put salmon on my plate for our food group. And just remembering portion sizes that we just spoke about when it comes to myplate.gov. And then we're also going to add in our last category from the grains group. So I have a couple grains today. They are either brown rice or a small baked potato. We're going to go ahead and have some brown rice on our plate today. As you can see, this completes our plate. So we have our vegetable, which is green beans. We have our protein, which is our salmon. And then we also have our starch from our starch group, which is our brown rice. I also have some dairy here. So this right here represents our cup of milk from our dairy group, or it could be also something such as yogurt. And then we also have our fruit in our plate as well. So we have all of our foods covered. Some foods that we should avoid, or at least have in moderation, are things such as soda, our cookies and candy, our cakes, and many other types of desserts like pies, and things such as chips. That completes our demonstration a little bit here on how we can fill in our plate, and also it lets us helps us understand better as to what we can do to make sure that we get all food groups.
Hi, everybody! Hi! Hey, come dance with me! Come dance with me! Come on! And you, come dance too! Exhale. That's it. And again, 5, 6, 7, double touch. Side.
Now we're going to talk about exercise and lifestyle. Some of the things and guidelines that are recommended when it comes to getting more movement is to move more and sit less. They say that some movement is better than none, and you gain benefits actually by doing moderate to vigorous activity. So when we're looking at the age group for baby boomers, the recommendations that are stated for them are to get at least 150 minutes, which is 2 hours or 30 minutes, to 300 minutes or 5 hours per week of moderate intensity exercise. Or you can get 75 minutes, which is 1 hour and 15 minutes, to 150 minutes, which is equivalent to 2 hours and 30 minutes per week of vigorous intensity aerobic physical activity. Or equivalent combination of moderate and vigorous intensity aerobic activity. It is preferred that aerobic activity should be spread throughout the week. Some added benefits that are gained by going above and beyond 300 minutes a week of moderate intensity physical activity. So if you go longer than 300 minutes, they are saying that you actually will gain more benefit from this, from just getting regular activity. And then you should also include muscle strengthening activities of moderate and greater intensity that involve all major muscle groups on 2 or more days a week. And it also provides added health benefits. So these are the current guidelines and recommendations. Some things that we want to make sure that we focus on are getting aerobic activity and strengthening. Just being physically active has been found to decrease chronic diseases such as cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, certain cancers. It is also known to decrease anxiety and depression, and also helps us to sleep better. So it also helps you to be able to perform throughout the day and day to day without having fatigue. When you increase your moderate to vigorous physical activity, you also increase cardiorespiratory and muscular fitness, and it also helps to maintain a healthy body weight and composition. So we're going to look at some aerobic exercise first. When we do this, it can be considered endurance or cardio. Most of us probably think of running or walking when we hear endurance or cardio. So it basically involves moving those large muscle groups in a rhythmic manner. Some examples of this, kind of like I just said, are running, brisk walking, riding a bike or bicycling, playing basketball, dancing, or swimming. And it's basically anything that just really increases your heart rate. It also increases breathing, which makes you stronger. Occupations with these activities can count towards weekly amounts set in the guidelines. It just has to be of a sufficient intensity. And the amount of weekly activity is actually more important than the amount of each episode. So, for example, if you were to run for 1 hour straight, it actually would be more beneficial to run multiple times per week for like 15 minutes than it would be to run 1 hour per week. So another kind of example is a person who does 300 minutes of activity compared to someone who does 150 minutes actually has lower risk factors. They have found that there is actually no upper limit for how much time of activity to be done. So they're basically just saying that the more you do, the better it is. And studies basically suggest that on average, you should at least do it 3 times per week. When we talk about intensity, The rule of thumb is basically 2 minutes of moderate intensity is equal to 1 minute of vigorous intensity exercise. So again, for example, 30 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity is equal to about 15 minutes of vigorous intensity activity. So moderate intensity, to gauge this, you can use what is called the talk test. It is basically where you can talk while doing the activity, but you cannot sing. Some examples are walking briskly at 2.5 miles per hour, recreational swimming, biking slower than 10 miles per hour on level terrain, playing tennis doubles, active forms of yoga, ballroom or line dancing, general yard work or home repair, and water aerobics. The vigorous intensity, to gauge if you're doing vigorous intensity or not, you cannot say more than a few words while doing this activity. Some of these some of the activities that fall in this group are jogging or running, swimming laps, tennis singles, vigorous dancing, biking faster than 10 miles per hour, jumping rope, heavy yard work such as digging, shoveling, or anything that's increasing your heart rate, hiking uphill with a heavy backpack, HIIT training, which is high intensity interval training, or vigorous step aerobics. The key is to gradually build up to doing more activity. When we look at strength training, actually, I wanted to note that some places that you can do aerobic activity or exercise in the community are just out on neighborhood streets, just as long as you're aware of safety. There are places such as the community center or the gym, such as Titletown Fitness, that these activities can be conducted. The community center and Titletown Fitness also have equipment that can be used, so during the winter time, those are great places to go. When we talk about strength exercise, those places can be done as well. Strength can be also done at home if you either have the equipment or you can do things such as body weight exercise. Strength training, you want to incorporate strength training into your daily routine with your aerobic exercise. It increases bone health and bone strength and muscle fitness, helps to maintain muscle mass during weight loss if you're trying to lose weight. Some examples are lifting weights, working with resistance bands, doing calisthenics that use body weight for resistance, such as push-ups, sit-ups, or planks, carrying heavy loads, or heavy gardening. Strength training can be counted if it's of moderate level or greater and work areas such as the legs, hip, back, chest, abdomen, shoulders, and arms. Strength training should be done 2 times per week, but no specific amount of time is required. And it should also be performed to a point at which it would be difficult to do another repetition. So what is suggested is 8 to 12 repetitions are effective of 2 to 3 sets. Some important aspects of exercise are making sure that you warm up and cool down. Warming up allows a gradual increase in heart rate, while cooling down allows the heart rate to come back down. Doing a warm up and cool down may count towards total activity time before aerobic key guidelines if the activity is of at least moderate intensity. So some things such as brisk walking before running would count. Inactive adults should work toward the minimum goal. So instead of trying to reach 300 minutes per week, they should shoot for 150 first. Light or short periods of time spread throughout the week, and also gradually increase amount of time from weeks to months to reduce the risk of injury. Some things for the inactive adults are to start walking 5 minutes several times a day for 5 to 6 days per week, and then can increase 10 minutes per session on 3 days per week, and then slowly increase speed. Some things inactive adults can do for muscle strength are just to gradually also increase that over time. Start with 1 day per week of light to moderate effort, and then increase to 2 times per week, and then start working on and focusing on increasing intensity. Adults are encouraged to do a variety of activities to prevent injuries. Highly active adults are encouraged to increase their activity. This group is normally doing 300 plus minutes of moderate intensity activity and 2 times a week of strength training. If you're working on weight loss, then you will need to do more than just 150 minutes per week at moderate intensity while reducing caloric intake to achieve weight loss. One other thing to be noted are special considerations. So considerations should be taken for those with the following conditions before beginning physical activity. Those such as pregnancy, the postpartum period, chronic health conditions and disabilities, conditions such as osteoarthritis, diabetes type 2, hypertension, cancer survivors, and those with selective physical disabilities such as MS, Parkinson's, stroke, and spinal cord injuries should be considered. So you want to make sure that you get with your doctor and have a doctor's approval before beginning any type of physical activity. Other things that should be considered are the person's age, current level of fitness, prior experience, and if you'll need protective gear or equipment for the physical activity that you are about to do. Other things that should be considered are safety considerations. So consider the time of day and temperature outside before doing activity. Switch to an indoor activity if it's extremely hot out or cold outside, or if it is slippery. Change types of activity if you're experiencing pain, exhaustion, or any type of issue. You could also lower intensity if you're having pain or exhaustion. Pay attention to resting, getting into shade if needed, and staying hydrated. And then some other considerations could be air quality, wind chill, heat index, and if you're about to do where you're about to do your activity is actually a safe location for that. And then if it's, the time of day, if it's nighttime, you want to make sure that you're clearly visible. So to conclude, some of the sources that were used throughout this presentation were choosemyplate.gov, USDA.gov, and the Garden Food Service website, and health.gov for activity guidelines for the baby boomer generation.